Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into SEC Nightly, the nightly show dedicated to the top news and notes from the nation's top conference. As always, I'm your humble host, Brooks Austin, here with you on a Monday night, a little later than typical, about 9:30 kickstart here on SEC Nightly. But, news has been a little slow lately, but that's not going to stop me from bringing you a good show today. We're going to go strictly Georgia-specific on today's, live stream and broadcast and podcast for those of you over on the podcast platform. It's going to be very Georgia-specific today. I know a lot of my social media following will enjoy that. And today we're going to be talking about whether or not Kirby Smart is going to, perhaps change that national recruiting strategy and national recruiting brand that he so had in 2020 in the year of 2021. A lot of top talented prospects in state here in the Peach State. 10 players in the top 100 of the most recent player composite rankings come from the state of Georgia, all 10 of which are Georgia targets. So we're going to be talking about tonight whether or not Kirby Smart's going to be able to go 10 for 10. I think he's got a really good shot to go at least 9 for 10. Going to require a flip to go the full 100% of those top 10 guys. So we're going to be breaking it down deep tonight on these 8 remaining guys, right? 2 of the top 100 players and top, 10 players from the state of Georgia, for that matter, are already committed to the state of Georgia, being Brock Vandergriff and good Lord, forgive me. Can't believe I forgot his name. That is so bad by me. Give me 1 second, guys. Holy smokes. I don't even deserve David Daniel. I am so sorry, David. That's the problem with running these shows by yourself, guys. You don't have a producer, screaming in your ear when you go dumb. So, with me going dumb already, lost the audience halfway through. With me being dumb, I apologize for being dumb. One, let me go ahead and get, the rest of the non-professional stuff out of the way, which is to beg you for some support for the show. Already got 1 like up on the board. Let's get a couple more rolling in as tonight's broadcast goes through. Show support for the show, what we put on over here nightly, over on SEC Nightly, by just, giving us some support on those social media platforms and following us on YouTube over there. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do so. We'll probably be putting out a film session and a film study relatively soon. Sometime this week, we'll get in there and break some good stuff down. But again, tonight we'll be talking about these 10 guys from the state of Georgia, and I greatly, greatly apologize to you, David Daniel, for the mistake there. So let's get right into it. Amarius Mims, the number 1 player in the state of Georgia, a must-have in the class of 2021 for the University of Georgia, and it's going to be a battle between him and Tommy Brockermeyer, out there in Texas for OT1 on my board. Okay, going into this recruiting analyst world, my foot is on the table, my hand is, my fist is on the table, whatever the scouting expression is. In the room, I will be banging on the table for Amarius Mims to be OT1, assuming he comes back fully healthy from this knee issue that he had this past season. All indications are that he's going to. Okay, no announcement is imminent in his recruiting process. It's still pretty early for most of these guys, even though some commitments are, coming sooner rather than later. Amarius is already taking multiple visits, unofficial visits rather, to a lot of top programs. He was at Florida this past weekend. He's going to continue to enjoy himself on this recruiting trail. But I will tell you that Georgia sits in a very good place right now for the 6'7.5", 330-pound tackle. They're out of Bleckley County down in South Georgia. So, again, told us over there at the Bulldog Maven, no announcement is imminent from, his camp down there with, him and his decision makers and all the people involved in his situation, even though I don't think there's a ton. But, I'm, again, number 1 tackle in the country, I believe, when all is said in the 2021 class, and I think there's a good chance that he does indeed end up at Georgia. But again, he's going to this is going to have to be one of those, very similar to the Cedric Von Pron and, not necessarily Broderick Jones for that matter, but he's going to explore his options as he should throughout this recruitment process. But, there is a very close relationship already between he and Brock Vandergriff, a guy who we've already talked about as a commitment to the 2021 class. So those guys talk on a weekly basis. Amarius told Blaine Gilmer the last time we spoke with Mr. Mims out there. So a close relationship's already being built with someone that he could potentially be playing with there at the University of Georgia, and someone who in Brock who has already, created relationships and starting to, further build upon those and starting to use some leverage and, asking these guys to come on and, as Amarius told us, Brock's telling him, I want you to be a catalyst in this thing like me. I want you to get in here early so I can walk around with big Amarius Mims and say, hey, look what we've got starting over here at Georgia in this 2021 class. So Brock very heavy on Amarius, as is the Georgia staff. Look, they're recruiting him heavily, as they should be. And again, I think they're in good footing and good holding right now as it sits heading into the summer leading up into his final year there, down there in South Georgia. So on to Brock. Brock, the next highest rated player in the state of Georgia, obviously. Don't think he's going anywhere, right? He decommitted for Oklahoma for one reason and one reason only. That was to attend the University of Georgia and to play, closer to home. Well, now he's in his backyard. He's going to play his college football in his backyard. And as we already told you, he's being a catalyst in this recruiting class, going out and talking to these guys and being, an advocate and a spokesperson for this recruiting class as a player already in it. So you like to see that, especially from a guy who's going to be playing the quarterback position there at at the University of Georgia. So on to the next guy who we've already interviewed. We interviewed him today. If you guys haven't checked out that interview over there of Smael Mondon from I believe South Paulding High School. If you haven't seen that, check it out on BulldogMaven.com. You guys got to forgive me, man. It's unlike some guys that, and it's something I'm blessed and fortunate enough to do. I have to cover them all now, not just the University of Georgia, even though we're doing this extremely well at the Bulldog Maven. But I got a lot of other names going on, and other high schools too. So just know that I know the players. Sometimes I might mistake where they're from. I apologize for that. And, I know that's very, very important, but I'm getting better at it. I've always been notoriously bad for names, but I've also been notoriously honest and forthcoming, and probably a little bit to my detriment and downfall a bit of, every once in a while. But, forgive me on those. But Smael Mondon, the South Paulding native, you want to know how good this guy is? He never attended a camp, not one. Did not go to a single, 7-on-7, college camp, none of that. Yet, as a freshman in the fall of 2018, he already had an offer from the University of Tennessee. In April of that freshman year, he had an offer from Alabama. So this is a guy, like, you don't have to know his name. You don't have to look at, know where he's from or what school he goes to. You watch the damn tape and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand why he's the number 2 outside linebacker in the country. I understand all of it because, he's 6'3", runs like a deer at 220 pounds, and can play just about anything on the football field. I mean, just about anything, and do it all very, very well. Might be one of the best running backs in the state of Georgia, honestly. If you really just lined him up and said, hey, you're only going to play running back, he could do that at 6'3", 220. The ball skills are incredible. And to me, here's my prediction for you. Everything to me about Mr. Mondon tells me that he's everything about the Georgia culture. He's just a guy that's, no flash, just show up, go to work, and get to the league. That's that. The only problem is the other schools that he's considering, Clemson and Alabama, they're the same product. They're the exact same thing at this point. They're an NFL factory waiting to, you wait your turn, get your exposure, and get out. I mean, that's what it is, and that's, kind of the track that Smael Mondon's on. He's going to be a guy that's, a potential first-round draft pick. This is a 5-star, recruit at this point. So everything about him says just go to a grinded-out school and a grinded-out culture. The only problem is the 3 top programs in the country at this point in terms of recruiting, Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia, are all very similar in that facet where guys that don't really care about their brand can go in there and fit in, and guys that do care about building a quote-unquote brand, well, guess what? They can go there and do the same thing as well. I mean, there's several platforms and several guys out there that are taking advantage of schools like Auburn and Clemson and Georgia, but they also fit in for guys who really need to show up and just enjoy the grind. Just enjoy doing what DeAndre Swift did, which is show up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and get your workout session in because you need to catch 100 balls today because that's what you want to do to be great, and you only caught 65 at practice. So what do? When you get done with your homework, you go in there and, hit your little thumbprint on the indoor facility, and you've got an AT staff or a trainer staff or someone who, just might happen to be in the building and to throw you footballs and do stuff like that. Like that kind of environment, that kind of culture is what it's set up. And the same type of guy that's going to walk in there. He doesn't care about the flash. I'm sure when these guys host him for visits, it's not about, hey, look at the uniforms. It's never going to be about that with this guy. When you watch the tape, this is one we call the Madden swag guy, right? Madden swag. What is Madden swag? Madden swag is the generic football player when you create a player and you don't touch anything. That's what Smael Mondon's game day swag looks like. You know why? Because he don't care. He's only there to catch bodies. That's it. He's only there to light folks up and play extremely great football on Friday nights, and that's what he's going to do on Saturday nights too. I think Georgia's in the lead here. That's all I know. But I think it's going to be an extended process here as well. I don't think, he even told Blaine, I don't think he's going to visit Georgia anymore on an official visit, and maybe on an official visit. But he's so comfortable with the Georgia staff and the Georgia campus, so he says, that he doesn't feel the need to take any more visits up to Athens. So do with that what you will. But that could mean Georgia's in a great sitting, that he's so comfortable he doesn't have to see it anymore. He doesn't have to talk to him anymore, even though they talk regularly, obviously over the phone and whatnot, but doesn't have to visit them in person because he's already been up there several, half dozen times. That's fine. I mean, it is what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. Take it for what it's worth. He's probably not going to be up in Athens very much more. And again, this isn't a guy who, you go onto his social media and you see he's at a different campus every weekend, because he's not. He doesn't care. All he cares about is working out, it appears. So, that's the kind of guy I would recruit. And that's the kind of guy that, depending upon, whether or not he went to no camps and all that, but the film says what the film says. He's a 5-star. He's one of the best outside linebackers in the country, and he's one of the best players in the country. And I think Georgia's got a great shot at landing him like they do most of these guys in state. However, the next guy we're going to talk about, the 5th-ranked guy in the state of Georgia, maybe the 4th-ranked guy at this point. I don't know when these numbers, if I don't put numbers on them and I get going through these segments by myself, because we're about 12 and a half minutes in at this point. When I get to rambling and talking by myself, sometimes I lose track because I'm always thinking about the next take as it's coming out. You guys that, might do radio might understand. But on to the next one. See, most guys don't tell you that. That's why we're on a podcast or streamcast platform. That's why, I don't have a boss back there saying, hey, shut up, dummy, move on to the next topic. Dion Colzie, the Athens Academy product. Here's where the doubts set in of whether or not Kirby can go 10 for 10 in this top 10 class in the state of Georgia, whether or not he can fully wall off every single 4- and 5-star recruit that he so chooses. This is where the, questions started setting, because Colzie is already a Notre Dame commit. But, who's to say Kirby Smart can't flip a guy? I know for a fact, over the last couple of years, he's flipped some pretty daggone big targets, and flipped them under much, much harder circumstances than the guy going to school right down the street. You understand me? Like, I understand that Dion Colzie is committed to Notre Dame, and I'm not saying that he's a take in this class or that Kirby Smart and his staff are still continuing to recruit him. I'm just saying that if Kirby, it seems at this point, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, if Kirby Smart feels like he wants an in-state recruit back from Notre Dame, he's probably got the cachet to walk down the street and go make that happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not saying that he wants or doesn't want Dion Colzie, because, the 46th player in the country and one of the top, a top 10 wide receiver, any school would probably take that guy. But what I'm saying is Georgia just brought in 5 guys in the 2020 class, all who are pretty damn good. George Pickens will still be on roster. Don Blaylock still on roster. Okay, really, really deep at the position. A couple of these guys that we're going to talk about on the back end of this list are almost in the same scenario at the defensive back position. But wide receiver more than ever, because the 2020 class was so flooded with top wide receiver talent. So, and you know what? Maybe Dion Colzie is one of these guys that just doesn't want to, stay home. Maybe he's a guy who I didn't want to go to school 5 minutes down the road. I can tell you that right now. But then again, I didn't live 5 minutes down the road from the University of Georgia. Okay, nor did I have an offer to go to the University of Georgia. So it's a totally different situation. But Colzie can pretty much go almost wherever he wants at this point. And he's choosing to go to Notre Dame at this point, and that's where he's committed. And we will leave it at that. So it's going to take a flip, like we told you off the top. But again, Kirby Smart's flipped prospects under much, much more difficult circumstances than what is the case right there with Colzie. On to our next guy, and back to a little bit more of the confidence meter here. Terrance Ferguson also goes by TJ, the Peach County project or prospect down there. Great shot for Georgia to land this tackle down there. And, if you followed Kirby Smart's comments like I do, his post-game comments and all of his, press conferences and whatnot, you'll understand that he's got a little bit of I wouldn't say infatuation, but he's got a little bit of love for South Georgia football, specifically Peach County football. It's where Kirby Jackson's from. Remember when Kirby Jackson broke his hand this year, a lot of people in the media in press conferences were asking about Kirby and whether or not he was practicing and all that kind of stuff. And Kirby Smart basically said this, and I don't know if it's the exact quote, but I remember it almost directly being said this way. He said, quote, "That's a Peach County boy. Y'all don't know nothing about Peach County." Basically insinuating that Peach County's just a little bit different. Those dudes are a little bit tougher, and, the brand of football is just a little bit nastier down there in Peach County, okay? Ain't much to do but run into each other, if you know what I mean, down there in Peach County. And just to kind of relay further on that Kirby Jackson story, the story ended up being he was catching balls and running through scout team practices with a cast on his hand, like one of them big old nubs and stuff like that. He was going through practice with a big nub on his hand, catching footballs, playing wide receiver, because he's from Peach County, because he's built a little different. They just, you'll understand if you're from that South Georgia area, if you've ever played, anybody in South Georgia football, good Lord, you'll understand it. It's just a different vibe. Those guys they move different. And you know what else? Kirby Smart identifies with that. He knows that. He understands when he walks in those families, when he walks into those living rooms, that vibe, that he's home, man. That's what he knows, okay? So that's why he's so good at the state of Georgia. That's why he's so good at recruiting these guys, because it's just what he knows. He's very, very comfortable in those settings. And, Peach County, he's almost undefeated. When he goes into Peach County and wants a guy like he wants, apparently, Terrance Ferguson and TJ Ferguson, he's going to get him. So I think it's a good chance that Ferguson ends up in this class. And I know this for a fact. They're recruiting offensive linemen heavy in the 21 class, just like they did in the 2020 class, because as you've seen, they're getting picked off by left and right to the NFL. So they've got to replace those bodies and replace them fast and replace them with 5 stars like 4 stars like Terrance Ferguson, okay? A top 10 tackle in the country. And just a little side note on Ferguson, because I know I've been talking a lot about these guys' recruitments, but I haven't talked a lot about their game. But I love TJ's game, so I'm going to sit here and just talk about it for a second. You want to talk about a technician. I mean, holy smokes. When high school football players are 6'5", 305 pounds, 310 pounds playing tackle, they're athletic specimens, like they test out of the water, all that great stuff. Typically, when you turn on the tape, you don't expect to see perfect pad level. You don't expect to see perfect hand placement. A great pass protection drop set that doesn't need much work. You don't expect them to always be in perfect balance, always keep correct body composition and body positioning. All that's there on Terrance Ferguson's tape. It's been there since he was a freshman in high school. That Peach County offensive line staff, whether or not it's been Terrance working on his own, figuring it all out, whether or not it's been the staff, somebody, whether it be TJ himself, somebody's figured out what to do as an offensive lineman over there and not just rely on your strength and your power and your God-given abilities. That dude's going to walk into SEC football and be very, very suited to play very, very early. So a guy I really love in the 2021 cycle. We'll see if Georgia lands him. I think they got a great opportunity too, though, as most of these guys, as all of these guys on this list, every top program in the country is hot and heavy after these guys. On to the next guy, another North Gwinnett product. We got 2 North Gwinnett products on this list. We'll talk about both of them, in the next 3 slots right here. The first one, Barrett Carter, a guy we've talked to over there on the Bulldog Maven, man. A dynamic linebacker, man, and he loves Georgia. Up there, he has a blast. Him and Coach Smart and Coach Lanning, they talk several times throughout the week, according to Barrett, and they're in constant contact. Those are all good signs, and he absolutely loves the school. I think he ends up at Georgia, okay? I think, and we'll just leave it short there. I don't want to, go into too much depth about these guys that I think are, I'm not going to say Barrett is a lock to end up at Georgia because schools like Ohio State and Clemson are recruiting him. Jordan Hancock, a guy that we're going to be talking about here in a second, I don't think ends up at Georgia. Those two guys are teammates. Is there any potential that Jordan pulls him away from the state of Georgia? I don't know. Those are things that still yet to be determined right here in Barrett's recruitment. But what I can tell you is he's got as close of a relationship with that coaching staff at the University of Georgia as any of these guys on this list, apart from the already commits, right? So we'll just leave it at that. A great football player, a guy who, where's he going to play? I don't know. Is he going to play inside linebacker? Is he going to play outside linebacker? Are they just going to let him free roam? Like, I've heard people call him the next Isaiah Simmons, even though he's only about 6'1", and Isaiah Simmons is touching 6'4". I'm hearing a lot of this Isaiah Simmons player comp lately. There's a reason there's only been one of those guys. So save them for, the Terrance Loves in the 2023 cycle. Save them for, guys a little bit further down the road. Let's give it some space. Let's let it breathe before we just start dumping Isaiah Simmons on guys like Barrett Carter, okay? Barrett Carter is going to be a really, really, really good inside the box linebacker. He can also rush the passer, which guess what? At Georgia, they ask you to do that. He can play in space. Guess what? Their will linebacker, he does that. Tay Crowder played in space all the time last year, okay? So if you're a guy that wants to play in space, if you're a guy that wants to play in the box, if you're a guy that wants to do them both, Georgia's the place for you to be, and you don't have to go far to do that from North Gwinnett. So Barrett Carter probably, a Georgia lean at this point. So we'll go on to the next one, Micah Morris. A little bit back more on the doubt side of things right here. The big, we'll call him an offensive tackle for now from Camden County, even though I think he projects more as a guard at the college level. But, that's nor here nor there. That's for a future, discussion, and that's for his coach in college to understand and evaluate. But, nonetheless, he's a top 100 player in the 2021 class, and he is a space creator in all of the great ways. I know that's one of my favorite words, but he's a space creator on the offensive line. I mean, he just moves bodies. When he moves, bodies move. They go with him. He's never going backwards unless he's intending to do so, obviously in a pass protection scenario. But even in then, bull rushes, never. You're not going to bull rush this guy. I'm going to tell you that right now. Just go and throw it out of the bag of tricks. Try something else for the night, because on Friday nights in Camden County in South Georgia, you are not bull rushing Micah Morris, okay? And also you should probably, I wouldn't say lie down, but I might bear crawl on automatic rundown situations just so you don't end up on a highlight tape. I mean, that's the reality of the situation you're faced in when you're going up against a guy like that, because he is massive. He is a run blocking beast. Okay, and he's balled out this summer or early spring so far in the camp circuit as well in one-on-ones, which are really, really tough for offensive linemen, especially out there on the edge for a guy like him who, I don't question the foot speed yet. I just question whether or not the body's going to project more as a guard. And, who's to say he can't play, right tackle if he so chooses at the college level. But I think he's an all-SEC guard if he so sticks. But as far as back to the recruitment and whether or not he ends up at Georgia, there's some South Carolina chatter here. There's some North Carolina chatter here from my understanding. So Micah Morris not necessarily tied up right now to the University of Georgia. One would assume, as most of the cases with these offensive linemen, as was the case with TJ Ferguson, because we spoke to him back when Sam Pittman was the offensive line coach. The dude couldn't stop talking about Sam Pittman. Every question we asked Terrance Ferguson about the University of Georgia, it was Sam Pittman this, Sam Pittman that, Sam Pittman this, Sam Pittman that. Well, the Matt Luke hiring didn't slow that down. It's just now turning into Matt Luke this, Matt Luke that, Matt Luke this, Matt Luke that. Okay, that's what it's turned into now for Georgia, and for good right. I mean, that was an excellent hire by Kirby Smart, one he had to have, because he is built off of moving inwards to outwards, starting on that offensive line on offense and moving outward, and adding some obviously talented wide receivers on the go of it. So Micah Morris, whether or not he ends up at Georgia, not a necessarily lock. There's some ground to be made up, right? Like most of these guys we've been talking about tonight, 8 so far on this list of top 10 players heading into our 9th and 10th one. 7 of them, except for the commit Dion Colzie, are probably currently, the leader of their recruitment's probably looking like Georgia at this point. Now, these last two guys that we're going to be talking about tonight, Jordan Hancock and Green, it's very, very early in these recruitment processes for two very different reasons. Jordan Hancock, been one of the nation's top corners, going to stay one of the nation's top corners. But I think for him and for Nyland especially, but more importantly for Jordan, Jordan doesn't look like he's going to be moving out or away from the traditional corner position. So that means the University of Georgia right now is probably not his best bet for early playing time. It's just it is what it is. It's like we were talking a little bit about with Dion Colzie. Right now, it's looking like Clemson's kind of leading in Jordan Hancock's recruitment. It looks like that's where he's probably going to end up. It's still very early in this situation. But Hancock doesn't have the option, like we're going to talk about with the next guy, I don't believe, to play the star position at Georgia, or to play free safety, or to play strong safety, or to do anything like that. He's going to have to play traditional corner in the SEC or in the Big Ten or in the ACC, wherever he ends up, which it's looking like he's going to end up in the ACC. It's a lot of guys out there in that cornerback room right now at the University of Georgia. And with guys like Trey Grimes and Keely Ringo already, signed, and guys like Trey Grimes in this class potentially ended up at Georgia as well. A lot of bodies. And that's a lot of really play the cornerback position, and some of which were even higher touted than Jordan Hancock. So I know it's not all about recruitment and stars and all that stuff, but Georgia signed 6 DBs or 7 DBs or something like that in the 2020 class. They're going to sign some more in the 21 class, and some really, really good ones. So whether or not Georgia's the best bet for a guy like that who's trying to get national exposure and trying to go to the league in 3, like most of these kids are nowadays, I would imagine, Georgia's probably not looking like the spot for a guy who's going to end up at traditional corner, because there's so much competition right there at the University of Georgia. Now, on to the next guy, a guy that we've talked to recently over at the Bulldog Maven, and Nyland Green. This is a really big corner. This is a guy who's about 6'2", probably going to end up at 6'3" before he's done playing high school football, and he wants to stick at corner, and that's fine. And he may end up at corner, and I think he's got the ability to. But so as often the case, when you get these big high school corners, they get even more weight put on them in college, and guys want to move them closer to the box. Now, I don't think Nyland's going to have to if he wants to. If he wants to set his soul and his heart on playing outside corner, that's fine. But if he ends up at Georgia, which I think there's a good chance he will, if he ends up at Georgia, the best way to be on the field early is to be able to play all those positions in the back end, similar to a guy like Tyreek Stevenson. And that's a guy who I think Nyland's game kind of, simulates right there. A big physical guy who has shown on tape he can walk down and play press man-to-man corner. He can play deep safety and play the middle of the field and play center field safety. He can play slot corner and lock guys down. Hell, he can rush the passer if you want him to. He can do all those kinds of things. He can play a spy, which those types of players, the Tyreek Stevensons of the world, those types of players have become invaluable in the RPO game of college football nowadays. When guys are trying to, do multiple things where they're trying to run the ball, show run action, heavy run action, while running in slants and crossers behind, trying to occupy the middle of the field while also getting quick dump outs to the outside edge to keep the defense spread out. So what's all that say? All that says is basically you need a really big, fast linebacker on the field nowadays. You need a guy who's tall, lanky, and quick enough to play like a safety, but thumps like a linebacker, and we need him now. That guy needs that position, the star position, guys, that just got created. It's been called the nickel, like a lot of guys on TV want to call it the nickel position. But I'm here to tell you, back in the day when nickel defense got started, all the nickel was an additional DB. That's not what these STAR position players nowadays, guys like Mark Webb, Tyreek Stevenson, Devon Wilson, that's not what these guys are anymore. They're not just an additional DB thrown on the field. No. They are there for run support. They are there to play the pass. They are there to lock down in slot or in man-to-man coverage in the slot. They're there to rush the passer. They're there to play in the box. They're there to spy defenders. They're there to do it all. I mean, they are in an absolute anomaly on that defense. They're there to do everything. And a guy like Nyland Green, with that body type and with that length and with that size and physicality that he plays with, he can get on the field early at the University of Georgia, whereas a guy like Jordan Hancock might not be able to, okay? Just because it's so deep there at the DB position and at the cornerback position in particular. And guess what, guys? There's only 2 of them. They can only play 2 of them at a time. Whereas they can go dime and play 6 DBs at a time, right? But only 2 lockdown outside corners. So just a little bit different of an opportunity for a guy like Nyland as it is for a guy like Jordan. That's not to say Jordan's not going to be, he's going to stay a top 100 commit or a top 100 prospect, and he's going to go to a great school, right? I mean, guys, he's deciding between Clemson, Ohio State, and Georgia, most likely, it looks like. So those are 3 pretty damn good schools. He's going to have some pretty good offers. So, all good there. But I do believe, right now, Nyland led me to believe the only, when I always ask these guys what schools are they mostly focusing on, especially these 21 guys heading into their senior year. And it's very clear when they speak who they really favor, because after they rattle them off, boom, 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 and then they got to take a hesitation and go, and then some other schools. Okay, well, here's the deal with Nyland. The 2 schools that came out quickly were Clemson and Georgia, okay? And 2 schools just like Jordan that are on the table. And here's the other thing about Nyland. Okay, this is a guy whose recruitment has shot up 130 so odd spots in the top, in the player composite rankings. So what that leads me to say, and why I think this, recruitment's going to be extended a little bit. Maybe this isn't a summer commitment. Maybe this is a September commitment. Whenever it comes, it comes. As Nyland told me, whatever happens, God has a plan kind of thing. What I'm saying is, I think that these offers and these potential decisions for Nyland, the doors to those, the actually opening them all the way, the doors to these options just now came about. Okay, that's why you see this skyrocketing in the rankings. Okay, sometimes, and everybody, if you don't know about the recruiting world now, I'm about to teach you something. Okay, there's offers and then there's committable offers. Okay, there's offers that coaches give you, and then there's offers that you can take. Basically, is what I'm telling you. And what I'm telling you is that door being open, that offer being a takeable offer. I think those doors to these bigger schools like Clemson, like Georgia, like Alabama, if he so happens to take a visit out there, I think those doors, those committable offers, are finally starting to open for Nyland, and so it's going to make his commitment process and decision process just a little bit harder, because these options are now actually fully on the table, as they should have been from the beginning. So that is our show for tonight. I'm going to do my normal riffing thing as I go to find my outro music that I love so much. And boom, look how quickly that happened. But no, this is SEC Nightly, guys. We do this Monday through Friday. Well, here's the deal. I'm going to be 100% honest, as I always am with you guys. Monday through Friday is a lot of show for me. And though I will probably promise you that during the season, because there's tons of news during the season, right now, it's like pulling teeth to find 33 minutes like I found tonight. And honestly, I think I deserve a little pat on the back for even being able to do it. So if I just show up 3 nights a week, don't jump in my mentions and give me crap, okay? Just love me for what I give you, all right? Don't be asking for no more free stuff, okay? Nobody likes those guys. Just support what I'm giving. And I appreciate you for doing that, all right? So, that's the show for tonight. We will be here probably tomorrow night. I don't know what I got going on. I might have to go shoot another workout. Got Holden Stays asking me to come shoot some stuff. Guy that just received a Michigan offer in the 2022 class. A massive tight end that I'm sure you'll be hearing about as Georgia fans. So I really hope you guys enjoyed tonight's Georgia-specific show. I know most of my social media following is, Georgia-based, even though I'm not. I'm just a guy. Just a guy that reports the news, baby. We appreciate you guys for showing up. We'll see you next time.